So, what if I told you that one of the biggest industries in the world, the mobile phone industry, was completely overthrown? Not by some crazy new invention, but by a brand new idea. Today, we're going to break down one of the most incredible and, honestly, most overlooked disruptions in the history of tech. A real revolution that changed how phones are made forever. All right, so let me just kick this off with a question that gets right to the heart of the matter. You gotta remember, back in the day when giants like Nokia and Motorola were the kings, making a new phone was a marathon. It was this huge, slow, complex process. But then, something just completely changed the game. Yeah, that marathon, it basically became a 100-yard dash. The development time just plummeted from well over 6 months all the way down to as little as 2. So how on earth did that happen? Well, that's the revolution we're digging into today. To really get what happened, we've got to look back at the old empire, right? Before this massive shift, the mobile phone industry was like a fortress with these huge walls dominated by just a few massive companies that controlled every single thing. Okay, so what you're looking at here is that old value chain. And man, it was a beast. A single company, let's say Nokia, had to do pretty much everything. They had to design the software, design the systems, then design the hardware for it to run on, figure out the look and feel, and then manage the entire project from start to finish. Almost all of it was done under one roof. That's what we call vertical integration. So the bottom line here is that this whole system was just incredibly complicated and super, super slow. The barrier to entry, it was sky high. You needed a ridiculous amount of money, resources, and expertise just to even think about competing. That fortress was locked down tight. But every fortress has a weak spot. And in this story, a key was about to appear that would unlock the gates for everyone else. And it wasn't a new phone. It was a new kind of chip and the whole new idea that came with it. And that idea is called modularity. Now, think about it like this. The old way was like trying to carve a beautiful statue out of one giant block of marble. It's incredibly difficult, takes forever, and you need a master sculptor to do it. Modularity, on the other hand, is like building with high-tech Lego bricks. Each brick is already a perfect, self-contained piece, and you can just snap them together in all sorts of new and creative ways. So who made these magical Lego bricks for the phone world? Well, it was a company from Taiwan called MediaTek, or MTK for short. What they did was brilliant. They took all the hardest parts, the chip, the software, the system design, and bundled them all together into one powerful chipset. It was a turnkey solution. They basically handed you the keys to the engine, and all you had to do was build a cool-looking car around it. And what this does is it sets the stage for this epic showdown, a battle of two completely different ways of building things. On one side, you have the old, slow fortress of vertical integration. And on the other, you have this new, lightning-fast, and super flexible network of collaborators. And you can see the difference right here, plain as day. The traditional model, vertically integrated, everything in-house, slow, complex, and a super high barrier to entry. The new model, which came to be known as the Shanzhai model, was completely horizontal, a whole bunch of specialized companies, each doing one thing really well. This made it unbelievably fast and dropped the barrier to entry to almost zero. This table really breaks it all down. It shows you exactly how the work got split up. In the old model, on the left, the big brands did everything. But look at the Shanzhai model on the right. MTK handles all the core tech. Then you have these specialized design companies jumping in to do the hardware and the look of the phone. And finally, these new, nimble firms could just pop up and manage the whole project. The fortress was totally and completely dismantled. So what happens when you blow the doors off the fortress like that? Well, you get an explosion. A massive explosion of creativity and competition from a place that nobody, and I mean nobody, saw coming. And the name for this whole movement is Shanzhai. Now, you might hear that word and think imitation or knockoff, and yeah, that's kind of where it started, but it morphed into something way, way more powerful. It came to mean grassroots innovation. It became a whole business philosophy built on speed, flexibility, and serving the customers that the big guys were ignoring. You see, because MTK was handling the super complex brain of the phone, these Shanzhai companies could just focus on the fun stuff. They could pour all their energy into wild new designs, getting super efficient with project management, and, this is the most important part, really understanding what local customers actually wanted. Things like phones with extra loud speakers or phones with 2 SIM card slots, things the big brands never even thought of. And this is the payoff. This chart right here brings us full circle, right back to that first question I asked you. While the big traditional brands were still slogging away, spending over 6 months to develop a single phone, the Shanzhai firms were just pumping out new designs in 2 to 3 months. The speed advantage was just staggering. And if you're wondering if this actually worked, check out this number, 150 million. That's how many phones these so-called imitators sold in 2007 alone. This wasn't some tiny little trend. This was an absolute market-conquering tidal wave. Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. What's the real lesson here? Because this story, it isn't just about phones, not at all. It's basically a playbook for how to tear down an entire industry and build a new one from the ground up. There's this quote from the research on this that just nails it. The Shanzhai firms didn't try to build a better phone than Nokia. They didn't try to beat them at their own game. They played a completely different game. They went after the low-end markets the big guys didn't care about, and they won with a completely new set of rules: speed, cost, and radical customization. So let's just put a bow on this. It's a simple recipe, really. Modularity, those high-tech Lego bricks, smashed down the walls of the industry. Horizontal collaboration made everything move at lightning speed. And out of the rubble of that old fortress, this chaotic, vibrant, and incredibly powerful new ecosystem was born. And that leaves us with one last really big question to chew on. This exact playbook completely remade one of the biggest industries on the planet. So the real question for us is, what fortress is next? Where are we going to see this happen all over again? Thanks for watching.